did get trapped in jail, but actually James
John Smith.
John Smith, yeah. He rescued her from the thing, and I don't remember Pocahontas actually having a child.
Yes, in the movie, yes, Pocahontas doesn't actually have a child in the movie. What caused, in this Pocahontas book, Dylan, what caused Pocahontas to move to England?
She moved with her lover.
Yes. Well, was it her lover or was it somebody else? Nope, it was. But it wasn't a lover. What was he to her?
Husband.
A husband. It was her husband. He moved with her husband to England. What were the effects on her and her family moving to England?
She never saw his, she never went back.
Yeah, she never went back and saw, in this story of Pocahontas, she never went back to see her father again.
But her son did.
Yeah, her son did. In the book, this book, it says that her son went back, but she was never able to go back. And we'll kind of talk about that a little bit more in a minute. What concept or theme do we find from this story about Pocahontas? What is the overall theme of this whole entire story? Why is it important for us to think about Pocahontas right now? Why do we need to learn about Pocahontas? Justin?
Because we're learning about Native Americans and social studies.
Yeah, you're learning about Native Americans and social studies. And what character trait can we learn from Pocahontas? Courage. Responsibility. She took on a lot of responsibility. Respect for others. Because she respected the people that the Indians were scared of. These pale-faced people that had fire that came. What were you going to say? Caring. She was very caring. That's a good character trait. I wanted to tell you that I'm going to hand you a piece of paper in just a second about Chief Roy Crazy Horse. He is actually, right now, he is the Powhatan chief. And he tells that the stories that we see from the Disney story, from the story that we just read about Pocahontas, is not actually the true story of what has actually been passed down to the Powhatan tribe. So if you will take one and pass it around, and I'm going to read this quickly before we run out of time. I wanted you to find out the real story about Pocahontas. So just quickly take one and pass it around.
Can I read it myself?
In 1995, Roy Disney decided to release an animated movie about a Powhatan woman known as Pocahontas. In answer to a complaint by the Powhatan Nation, he claims the film is, quote, responsible, accurate, and respectful. That's what Roy Disney said about the movie Pocahontas. We, as the Powhatan Nation, disagree. The film distorts history beyond recognition. Our offers to assist Disney with cultural and historical accuracy were rejected. Our efforts urging him to reconsider his misguided mission were spurred. So the Powhatan Nation, the Indian tribe, said, we will help you make the correct Pocahontas movie. But what did Disney say about that? No, we don't need y'all's input in this. We know the story. Pocahontas, this is what the Powhatan tribe says. Pocahontas was a nickname meaning the naughty one or spoiled child. Her real name was actually Matoka. The legend is that she saved a heroic John Smith from being clubbed to death by her father in 1607. She would have been about 10 or 11 at the time. The truth is that Smith's fellow colonists described him as an abrasive, ambitious, self-promoting mercenary soldier. Of all of Powhatan's children, only Pocahontas is known primarily because she became the hero of Euro-Americans as the, quote, good Indian, one who saved the life of a white man. Not only is the, quote, good Indian, bad Indian theme inevitably given new life by Disney, but the history as recorded by the English themselves is badly falsified in the name of entertainment. The truth of the matter is that the first time John Smith told the story about this rescue was 17 years after it happened, and it was but one of 3 reported by the pretentious Smith that he was saved from death by a prominent woman. Yet, in an account Smith wrote after his winter stay with the Powhatan people, he never mentioned such an incident. In fact, the starving adventurer reported he had been kept comfortably and treated in a friendly fashion as an honored guest of the Powhatan and Powhatan's brothers.
They were going to kill you.
Yeah, so he never even talked about them trying to kill him. Most scholars think the, quote, Pocahontas incident would have been highly unlikely, especially since it was part of a longer account used as justification to wage war on Powhatan's nation. Euro-Americans must ask themselves why it has been so important to elevate Smith's fibbing to status as a national myth worthy of being recycled again by Disney. Disney even improved upon it by changing Pocahontas from a little girl into a young woman. And see, she was only 11 at the time that this incident supposedly happened, and John Smith was like 28. The true Pocahontas story has a sad ending. In 1612, at the age of 17, Pocahontas was treacherously taken prisoner. During her captivity, a 28-year-old widower named John Rolfe took a, quote, special interest in the attractive young prisoner. As a condition of her release, she agreed to marry Rolfe, who the world can thank for commercializing tobacco. Thus, in April 1614, Matoka, also known as, quote, Pocahontas, daughter of Chief Powhatan, became Rebecca Rolfe. Shortly after, they had a son, so they really did have a son, whom they named Thomas Rolfe. The descendants of Pocahontas and John Rolfe were known as the, quote, Red Rolfe. 2 years later, on the spring of 1616, Rolfe took her to England, where the Virginia Company of London used her in their propaganda campaign to support the colony. She was wined and dined and taken to theaters. It was recorded that on occasion when she encountered John Smith, who was also in London at the time, she was so furious with him that she turned her back to him, hid her face, and went off by herself for several hours. Later, in a second encounter, she called him a liar and showed him the door. Rolfe, his young wife, and their son set off for Virginia in March of 1617. That's to go back to her land. But Rebecca had to be taken off the ship at Gravesend. She died there on March 21st, 1617, at the age of 21. She was buried at Gravesend, but the grave was destroyed in a reconstruction of a church. It was only after her death and her fame in London society that Smith found it convenient to invent the yarn that she had rescued him. History tells the rest. Chief Powhatan died the following spring of 1618. The people of Smith and Rolfe turned upon the people who had shared their resources with them and had shown them friendship. During Pocahontas' generation, Powhatan's people were disseminated and dispersed, and their lands were taken over. A clear pattern had been set which would soon spread across the American continent. So, was the story about John Smith true?
No.
That's Chief Roy Crazy Horse says it wasn't true. That story was not true. That John Wilkes was treated very respectfully. Why would they make up such a story like that? Why, Ryan? For entertainment purposes. People do that all the time for entertainment purposes.
Why was
Pocahontas
taken off the ship?
So she was very sick. Now, her son did make it, listen closely, her son did make it to the United States, and her son did eventually have kids. So there are a lot of relatives of Pocahontas that still live in the United States. One of the relatives, and her name was Pocahontas, used to teach at the middle school right here at Quail Hollow Middle School. She was actually a descendant to Pocahontas, and her name was Pocahontas. I want to show you, and we will talk about this real quickly before you leave.
Oh, this is it.
I want to show you a picture, and you can take one and pass it around so that you see it. A picture of the Disney Pocahontas and the picture of the real Pocahontas, and we will talk about the difference between the picture of the Disney Pocahontas and the real Pocahontas and why you think it's this way.
A lot of the Disney people
So,
say.
go ahead and take one and pass it around.
She's gonna,
Take one and pass it around, please.
Whoa, so does it not feel.
Take one and pass it around, Johnny Grace. Okay, so we have a picture of the Disney Pocahontas, an actual real picture of Pocahontas
Looks like a man.
that was painted when she went over to England and was wined and dined.
Wow. Looks like a man.
it looks like a man.
It looks like a man. He looks like an Egyptian.
So think about why you think there is such a big difference. Elena, take one and pass it around. Does anybody else have one? There you go.
Like an Egyptian.
No. Okay, Johnny Grace is going to tell us. Johnny Grace, y'all have to be quiet for just a minute. Johnny Grace, why? Yeah.
And they don't really want to tell the real story because then little kids scared or something.
Maybe the real story would make kids scared, and maybe that's why they would use this pretty picture.
Use the little princess bubble thing.
Mhm.
I won't put that.
Okay. Caroline R. I cannot hear Caroline R. if the rest of y'all are talking. I mean, Caroline G. Tell me. We have Caroline R.
Well, they wanted her to look like a princess.
Yes.
So she had like long hair like all the other ones and everything. Because I mean, honestly, I think that picture, if they made her look something like that, it would scare them.
Maybe scare little kids? Yes, what were you going to say?
Well, compared to the other, cartoon Pocahontas, the other one looks like a man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So maybe.
It's a man woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Martin.
This cartoon one, it kind of looks like an Egyptian.
Maybe. Yeah, it kind of looks like an Egyptian princess. Yeah.
This one, for some reason, it looks like the Mad Hatter and British one.
Yeah, it does look like a Mad Hatter and British one. What y'all think of?
In Great Britain? Was she in England at that time?
Yeah, she was in England at the time. That's why she has the big, puffy part around her neck. Okay, when your homework for today, when you go back to class, what you have to bring back tomorrow, as you exit today, I'm going to give you a white piece of paper. On your white piece of paper, you are going to please make a flow chart of at least 6 boxes that is giving us the sequence of this story, the Pocahontas story that we read in class. Tomorrow, when we meet, I'm going to show you a short biography clip of the real life of Pocahontas. And then tomorrow, I am also going to allow you to work in groups of 2 to make a tree map of myths and reality. What really happened to Pocahontas and all the myths that are being spread about Pocahontas.
Story we just read?
Yeah. So, today, for tonight, when you leave, you will get a white piece of paper from me. You will do a flow map. You must come back into class tomorrow with your flow map with at least 6 boxes, sequencing this Pocahontas story, and then tomorrow we will make a tree map and watch a short biography about Pocahontas and work in groups of 2 tomorrow on the myths and the reality of what really was the real Pocahontas. Okay.